Hi everyone, it's Desiree and I am here with my first project for Scrappy Tails. So I'll link up here to all of the wonderful products that are available to her recent release called Countdown to Christmas. So picked just a couple things to work with right now. So for today's project, I am going to focus on the layered poinsettias. I'm also going to focus on all of the wonderful Christmas or holiday foliage, because we've got a lot of choices in here. And what I'm going to do with each of these is use white cardstock, except for these solids. I actually pulled in a different to maybe give it a vintage feel, and I'm actually going to be using my coffee dyed papers in here. You could use your white cardstock and just ink blend it if you wanted to, if you're not into coffee dyed papers at all. But to just show to use something a little bit different. And then I'm going to use one of her foil plates to create for my sentiment. Now I have the Glimmer hot foil machine by Spellbinders, so I am going to see if these work. So if you've been having that question, I'm gonna answer it. Yep, absolutely. So very curious to try these and to do the different layerings. Again, just a different technique to use white cardstock, because maybe you don't have multiple colors of cardstock. Maybe you don't have multiple inks. You know, it could go either way. So again, I'm going to start with white. I am going to pull in some inks. I'm going to pull in some sprays. Again, going to kind of hit all kinds of different areas when it comes to this idea. Now, the other idea you could do too is to create a card with just all beautiful white cardstock. It's elegant, it's gorgeous, and it would be absolutely phenomenal. So again, all kinds of different choices here. So let's not gab too much more and let's just get started. Okay, so as always, got a lot of die cuts going on there, but here's what I want to focus on first. You can see this is the foil that I used, and that is the plate that I used from Scrappy Tails using my Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil machine. Yes, it works. And all I needed was the shim and the plate, cardstock, and the foil. So, and it did it. It gave a beautiful, beautiful impression. So I've got all these die cuts. Now you saw a lot going on there. I've got the poinsettias, I've got the leaves for that. I had also some items from the assorted Christmas leaves. Well, you won't see those in this card, so don't worry. I got carried away. So we're focusing on the poinsettias. So I pulled out some of my distress inks, and here I am using Rustic Wilderness and the Forest Moths, and I'm focusing on the outline because the base for all of these outlines, I'm actually going to use my coffee dyed paper. Now, you could use regular cardstock, you could use a solid color, you could use a cardstock that you ink blend, like I'd said before, you know, whatever, you could use pattern paper, whatever it is you wanted to do, but I truly wanted to get a vintage feel from these images. With the poinsettias, I'm taking shabby shutters, I think. No, bundled sage. Sorry. They're very close to me. Putting that in the center, and then I'm coming in with warm lipstick, and then on top of that, I'm coming in with aged mahogany. And again, it gives you, when it comes to, I love the white poinsettias. They are absolutely gorgeous. But remember, a poinsettia is nothing but leaves. It's not a flower. It's actually the leaves turning into the colors. So when it comes to the white, you've got this very faint pink or red, and then you've got this green that's coming in. So that's why I add those three colors together. I will go around each of the poinsettias and the outline leaves in, of course, you knew the vintage photo was coming in. I'm just saying. Whenever I do a vintage style card, the vintage photo comes in, especially. So I'm just going around very quickly around the edges. Not getting too crazy with it, not getting too dark. So here are the pieces that I've die cut. So that's the solid of the outline poinsettias. And I'm just lining up how these pieces will lay. These were very easy to match up. Sometimes it could take me hours to get something lined up when it comes to either a die or a piece. And I'm going to use my Barely Art glue to glue those on top of each of these pieces. I'm using very little glue, just making sure that there's little tiny dots so that when I layer these, you can see that brown just coming through. And that's what's helping with the vintage look. As I said, these are very easy to put together and to stack upon each other. So even when you have a solid image or a die cut images, it just has so many possibilities. I mean, you could cut that solid base and then take another piece of that same cardstock, use the outline again, and then you could paper piece all into another outline that you created. So you can have a lot of fun with this die cut piece. So again, we're just going to continue to layer these up. You know, I originally, just so you know, the reason why I had all of those other greens cut, I originally had I was going to have the poinsettias sitting, you know, inside these greens to almost like a centerpiece that you would have on your table. But I didn't have enough room. It would have been a really big card. The card size that I'm using for this is 5 by 7. When it comes to that size, and I wanted to make sure that my first thought was to make sure that the florals and the greenery was coming out from around the sentiment, and I really wanted to stick with that. So it kind of defeated what I was trying to do when it came to that. But never fear, I mean, I'll use them definitely in other projects for Scrappy Tails and anything else. Absolutely. So now we are on the leaves. We're just going to layer those on top of the background. I love the way that the rustic wilderness and the forest moss mixed together. Now the brushes that I was using, they are makeup brushes. Those are the brushes that I have. I mean, I know I have others, but they're the ones that I go to because they have the small sizes. I love that small detailed size. And they even have some that are smaller. So, I mean, they're great. And they're at a price point if you are that person that must have a set for each of the color families. Guess where I fall. I'm just saying. So again, I do like the way those two colors come together. The rustic wilderness is like a true green. The colors that the Distress line is coming out with, Tim Holtz is coming out with, they are, some of them are just true colors, like that rustic wilderness. To me, it is a true dark green. Blue ribbon, oh my god, it is absolutely gorgeous. It is a true blue. Kitsch flamingo, it is a true pink. So, you know, those three. And then you have the beautiful, you know, offset colors, the speckled egg and the salvage patina, and then the crackling campfire. You know, they're colors as well, but they're kind of different. You know, like the speckled egg and the salvage patina are like vintage, what I like to put into the vintage realm. So, okay, so we went back to the card. So we went through and I've added some vintage photo around the pieces because I do have some extra coffee dyed pieces which will be used. All I'm doing is I'm using my fingers and my nail to create a vine down the center just to give them some texture and some shape instead of, now they could stay flat. I mean, if you just want to keep them flat, you can certainly do that. I'm doing the same thing to the poinsettias, just a little bit, just on the tips. Some are coming up, some are going down. Because these all will be propped up, because the sentiment itself is going to be propped up. I'm first going to go around the edge with 3 colors. I'm going to go around with Vintage Photo, Then I'm going to come in with my brush and use the aged mahogany. And then I'm going to come in with the bundled sage and add that around it as well, just to pull in those colors. And you will see each of them. It just creates this very different shade of a burgundy. I'm going to use my double-sided foam squares. I'm going to stay more towards the center. I don't want to go too far out to the edge, and I'm going to set this right in the center of my card panel. Again, this is a 5x7 card panel. I am going to place a foam square in the center of each of my poinsettias. I have 5 of them die cut. Remember, I do like to work with odd numbers. So while the sentiment is pretty large, my focal is actually, or what I want my focal point to be, are the florals, the poinsettias. So for me, I've got to make those to be the odd number. So 3 on the bottom and 2 on the top, but your eye is just going to be directed right to the sentiment, but you'll see these florals just coming around it. That's what I look for when it comes to doing the arrangement. So I wanted to get the florals placed first. Again, everything's propped up on foam squares. So now the glue that you see me using off to the side, it's a glue that has been recently introduced to me. One of the things when I collage, especially this way with florals, because I'm just tucking things in and I'm lifting them up and just making sure, I need to have a fast grabbing glue because these are folded. They have a lot of dimension and I need that glue to get into the nook and crannies. I finally found that glue, and I was introduced to it by Spellbinders, actually, Susan, who does these beautiful dimensional florals. You've recently seen that video by me. It's called Kids Choice, and yes, it's by Beacon, the same makers of like the Fabri-Tac and also that Beacon 3-in-1, the alcohol solvent based that I love. This is a great fast grabbing glue. It is, even though it's liquid and you can see I have a lot there, it is enormously fast grabbing, which is awesome. They won't shift. When I've used the other glues, the Barely Art and the Spellbinder, or the Art Glitter Glue, they are great as well, and they are fast grabbing, but they don't allow for the dimension to stay. You've really got to push down on it to get it to adhere. So that's where I lose all of that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this card. I apologize, my lighting and everything off, I'm still working through that. But this is my first project for Scrappy Tails as a design team member, and I'm really excited. Had way too much fun. We're going to keep building on different techniques on how these can interact with her pop-up dies, how you can make just regular cards and different shapes out of these. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, the links will be down below in the video description, and they will be identified whether or not they are affiliate links, just to continue to be transparent. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those down below as well, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Yes, I've got caught up in them, but by all means, enjoy. I'd love for you to subscribe, so make sure you hit that button, make sure you hit the thumbs up, and also ring the bell so that you know when the next one is available. Enjoy the process. Have fun with it. But remember what's most important for me. Always be creative. Till the next video, guys. Take care.